All right, in this next multi-term tutorial, I'm going to cover adding terminological data to a term base. Once we have our term base, of course, we want to start adding information to it. So in this tutorial, I'm going to cover adding concept entries to a term base, adding term blocks to concept entries, and then I'm also going to cover one of the most common mistakes I see when people start making term bases, and that's in how people collect synonyms for a concept within their concept entry. We'll take a look at that so you can avoid that common mistake when doing your own term-based work. So once again, I have my multi-term application open. I've got my LocTerms term base open as well. So I've already got some terms and concept entries added to this term base. And now I want to go ahead and add a new concept to the term base. So to add a concept entry, I'm going to click Add from the Home menu of this navigational pane at the top of the application. I'm going to add, first of all, a term block for mother language in my term base. I'm going to add an additional term block for native language in my term base. I want to add the Spanish term for this concept into my term base as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some more terminological data to my concept entry, to the language level, and to the term blocks within this entry. So at the entry level, at the concept level, I want to add the subfield for this concept of mother language. Within my LocTerms glossary, localization is the subject field, and so I have subfields that I can select from. Within the domain of localization, this one's going to be a language related concept. At the language level, now maybe the next thing that I want to do is add a definition. So I'm going to add a definition in Spanish for this concept by selecting the add field under the language level. I want to add a definition source as well. So I want to, of course, have a citation of where did I get this definition from. This would help me to go back to my corpus and identify the document in case I'm wanting to get some other contextual information from it. At the term level, I want to add some information too. In this case, I want to add some term status information. I want to mark mother language as the approved term, and for my term status, I want to mark native language as the forbidden term. So in this case, I'm imagining that this term base is going to be used for content authoring. And in English, I want people to use mother language. I don't want people to use native language just because of the politics behind who gets to be considered a native speaker of a language. I want to use something that is less political. And so I'm going to mark mother language as approved and native language as forbidden. This is how I'm building in some instructions into my term base, and building instructions into my term base in a way that when the use case presents itself, the instruction is there, rather than having a really long style guide, for example, that has a million rules related to terminology in it that a person is never going to be able to remember. So we can see that this concept and the terms related to the concept have now been added to this list of terms, so I can browse the terms in my term base. If I wanted to be able to browse the terms in Spanish, I just go up here to where the languages of the term base are listed, and I switch the first language to Spanish for Mexico, and now I can see, okay, what are the Spanish terms in my term base? If I had a multilingual term base, and I do indeed have a multilingual term base here, but I don't have any terms in simplified Chinese in my term base yet, so there's no terms in the list, but that's the way that I would go about displaying the terms in the different languages in my term base. So next I want to talk about one of the most common mistakes that I see when people get started with term bases. Uh, and that's how terminological data about synonyms is stored within the term base. So I've set up this term base called synonyms in order to illustrate this common mistake that I see. In this concept entry, note that there's a data category for synonym within the term block within the concept entry. So if I go over to term-based management, go to the definitions, I can see that within my synonyms term base, I've got a data category for synonyms at the term level. The issue is that this is not the way to collect synonyms. We always want to keep synonyms within their own term block within the concept entry. Each of these is a term block. Language service provider is a term block. LSP is a term block. Now, if I keep LSP within this data category for synonym that I've created, what's going to happen is that when this term base is applied within a CAT tool or within a content authoring system, only instances of language service provider is going to prompt the system to pull up results from the term base for this concept. If somebody uses LSP, that in the writing, in the content, that will not prompt the system to pull this concept entry from the term base and show it in a results list. So I always want to make sure that I have my each of the synonyms for a concept within its own term block within the entry. This again just ensures that whatever application is using the term base, when seeing any synonym for a concept, will pull a results list that contains the concept entry for that concept.